If you receive income, most likely that income is being reported to the IRS. Wage income is reported on Form W-2, but most other forms of income are reported to the IRS, and thus to you, using a Form 1099. But which Form 1099? The IRS has dozens of them, each covering different types of income. I'm the Tax Geek, and here are Forms 1099, oversimplified. Now, we're not going to go into every single Form 1099. Some of them are so esoteric that as an ordinary taxpayer, you're unlikely to ever see them. That still leaves plenty of them to look at. Many of these forms I've covered in more depth in other videos, a thumbnail of which will appear on the screen as appropriate. A playlist of all these videos will be linked on the end screen and in the video description. All Forms 1099 have these things in common. They will give information on the payer and the recipient of the income, the amount of income, and if any federal income tax was withheld. The other boxes on each form give information unique to that type of income. So here are some common Forms 1099, from A to S. Form 1099A, Acquisition or Abandonment of Secured Property. This form is sent to a debtor when a lien holder or creditor takes possession of property through repossession, foreclosure, or abandonment by the debtor. This helps the debtor determine how much of a canceled debt is taxable income. However, usually this information is provided on Form 1099-C, which we'll look at in a moment. Form 1099-B, Proceeds from Brokerage or Barter Exchange Transactions. When you sell securities or other investments, this form will be provided to you by whomever brokered the transaction. It will tell you what was sold, when it was sold, the proceeds of the sale, and usually the basis of the property sold. Rarely will you see this form sent to you in this format. Most of the time the information is provided on a brokerage statement. Form 1099-C, Cancellation of Debt. When a creditor cancels, forgives, or reduces a debt, that action can result in potentially taxable income. Form 1099-C gives the details of the canceled debt. Also included on Form 1099-C is the fair market value of any property given up as part of the cancellation. If there is an amount in this box, Form 1099-A doesn't have to be issued. Form 1099-DA, Digital Asset Proceeds from Broker Transactions. This form is new for 2025. This form functions much like the Form 1099-B mentioned before, except that it has boxes that apply specifically to digital assets such as virtual currency and NFTs. Form 1099-DIV, Dividends. This form is issued to a taxpayer when dividends are paid or accrued, but again, you'll usually see the information given as part of a brokerage statement. Form 1099-INT, Interest. You'll receive this form when you've earned interest in the past year, whether or not you've received the interest in cash. These forms are usually issued directly from banks, but you may also see this information on a brokerage statement as well. Form 1099-G, Certain Government Payments. You'll usually receive this form in one of two circumstances. Either you received unemployment compensation in the previous year, or you received a state tax refund. You need to look at this form carefully. If the form was issued by a state in the event of a state tax refund, part or all of the refund might be taxable. Form 1099-K, Payment Card and Third-Party Network Transactions. You will receive this form if you either take credit or debit cards as a form of payment, or you receive money through intermediaries such as Venmo, PayPal, or Cash App. This usually indicates business income and should be reported as such, but receipts through intermediaries might be for a variety of instances, some of which are taxable events and some of which are not. The OBBBA established a $20,000 threshold for issuing this form. Form 1099-MISC, Miscellaneous Information. This is the catch-all form for potential income that is not reported on any other Form 1099 or W-2. You might receive this form if you rent property, license your intellectual property, are a farmer or fisher, have a medical or healthcare practice, or if you receive other income that is not reported on any other form. Form 1099-NEC, Non-Employee Compensation. If you work for someone, not as an employee but as an independent contractor, you will most likely receive one of these forms. Income from this form is usually reported as business income on a Schedule C or other business return. This income is often subject to self-employment tax, but expenses related to the activity might be able to reduce the taxable amount of this income. Under the OBBBA, the reporting threshold for issuing this form has been raised from $600 to $2,000 starting in 2025, but payers always have the option to report lower amounts. Form 1099-Q, Payments from Qualified Education Programs. You'll receive one of these forms if you receive a payment from a qualified education program, also known as a 529 plan. If the payout is used for qualified educational expenses, the earnings on the distribution are tax-free. Form 1099-QA, Distributions from ABLE Accounts. This form functions similarly to the 1099-Q described earlier, but are for ABLE accounts, which are special accounts that allow persons with disabilities to save money on a tax-deferred basis. In this case, as long as the expenses are used for qualified disability-related expenses, any distribution of earnings is tax-free. Form 1099-R, Distribution from pension, annuities, retirement or profit-sharing plans, IRAs, insurance contracts, etc. If you take money out of a retirement account or receive a periodic pension payment, you will receive one of these forms. All, some, or none of the distribution may be taxable, depending on the situation, and under specific circumstances there may be penalties associated with the distribution. Forms RRB 1099 and RRB 1099-R. These forms report income paid by the Railroad Retirement Board. The top or blue portion of the form reports Tier 1 benefits that are the equivalent of Social Security benefits and are taxed in the same way. The bottom or green portion of the form is used for regular pension payments and are taxed like any other pension. Since it is a contributory pension, not all of the pension is taxable, but it's up to the taxpayer to figure out how much is taxable. Form 1099-S, Proceeds from Real Estate Transactions. Anytime real estate is sold, it creates a potential taxable event, which can result in depreciation recapture or taxable capital gains. You're usually not sent this document. It's often included with the closing paperwork on the property sale. This must be reported on a Schedule D, along with the property's basis, to determine if there is a taxable gain. Even if the sale is of a personal residence and the gain is excluded from taxation, it should still be reported and the gain adjusted for the exclusion, especially if the proceeds are greater than $250,000. Form 1099-SA, Distributions from an HSA, Archer MSA, or Medicare Advantage MSA. If you receive a distribution from any of these accounts, you will receive one of these forms. The amount of the distribution is reported on line 14A of Form 8889. Report how much of the distribution was used for qualifying medical expenses on line 15 of the same form. These two figures should be equal. If the distribution is not reported on your tax return in this way, the IRS will assume the amount is taxable and they will assess a 10% penalty for a non-qualifying distribution. And lastly, we have Form SSA 1099, which is the Social Security Benefit Statement. If you receive Social Security benefits, you will receive this form showing benefits received and any federal income tax withheld from those benefits. It will also show deductions from benefits, such as Medicare Part B and D premiums, and any benefit repayments. This form is used to determine if your Social Security benefits are taxable, and if so, how much of them are taxable. The Medicare Part B and D premiums might be a potential medical expense deduction on a Schedule A. Did you receive a Form 1099 not covered in this video? Leave a comment and I'll try to explain it to you. Links to the forms themselves and a playlist of the videos relating to them can be found in the video description. If you found this video informative, please give it a like and subscribe to see more oversimplifications of our increasingly overcomplicated tax system. Thanks for watching, and I'll be back soon with more of your taxes oversimplified.